All right, welcome back to Soccer Batters on ESPN 97.5. Tonight, we're saving the best for last. Before I do that, though, I do want to remind you, the Copa America this summer, June 22nd, you got Mexico, Jamaica. June 24th, Colombia, Paraguay. July 4th, you have a quarterfinal. That could be Lionel Messi. You go over to lsse.net. There's also information over there about the Brazil-Mexico game that'll be played up in College Station at the legendary Kyle Field. And then, of course, Inter Miami and Tigres coming in August. That will be Leagues Cup. Dynamo will be involved in that as well. With that, we bring on the Dynamo general manager. He is Pat Onstad. Pat, thanks for coming on the show as always.
Thanks for having me, Glenn.
All right. Well, big news, Board of Governors meeting. Everybody's really excited about the additional expansion here to use discretionary income to build out rosters and some of these rules. Maybe just kind of take us into it a little bit from your perspective of some of the changes that we're going to see occur in the summer.
Yeah, and I mean, I want to give a little bit of a caveat because we had a CSO meeting on it about 2 weeks previously, so there may have been a few minor tweaks in terms of what we understand, but I think for the main points will come across here in this interview, but that'll be pretty safe to talk about. But essentially, there's going to be an opportunity. Before, we were very limited on our third designated player, where it had to be within a max TAM, which was about 1.683 million, had to be there or lower, or had to be a young designated player, which is a 23 and under player, and then they could make X amount of salary for you to be able to open up essentially 3 U22 slots. So I know everyone's using their abacus right now and trying to figure that out, but what essentially the new rule is that you can have 3 DPs of any type you want. You're allowed, and then you're still allowed to have your 3 U22s. If you decide to go with only 2 designated players, of full designated players. So, for example, right now for us, from a cap standpoint, and I don't want to say the name yet because we haven't told the player, but we have 3 DPs. But essentially, we have Sebastian Ferreira and Hector Herrera are 2 full designated players. If we stay with that model, then essentially we could actually get a 4th U22 player. And what it would do is open up, we'd get some more GAM that would come into that we'd be able to spend that you wouldn't have if you decided to go in the 3 DP model. So we're still in the midst of figuring out which to do, which is the best for us. I know one of the things we've been struggling with this year is just trying to get guys over the line on very small. We didn't have much flexibility in our cap. So sticking with the 2 would give us a little more flexibility, but it also means we're not getting a 3rd designated player. So it's a decision we'll have to see and who's available as the summer comes in. But it's exciting because now we actually feel like we have an opportunity to go make a move or 2 in the summer window.
Now, could this be dictated potentially by, thinking you're going to get one deal over the line faster than another? That might be a U22 as opposed to an older DP.
Yeah, I think part of it is we've been shopping in that kind of market, the U22. So we've gone down the line with a few of them. But I think for us, it opens up new possibilities, and also for us is going to be what does the summer market, the selling market do? So one of the other things that the product strategy committee brought in is there's now a mechanism to be able to generate more GAM or more money for your salary cap if you sell a player. So instead of being capped out, and I'm trying to think of a good example, Petrovic, who went for, I'm not sure what it was, 10 plus million to go to Chelsea. New England only had 1.2 million in GAM they could turn into their cap. And the change that looks like, if it gets implemented, which sounds like it's going to and has been, they would now have $3 million to spend in their GAM. So for us, that's going to be the big question. There's no secret here about Coco. We're still actively shopping Coco. At the same token, we signed a new long-term deal. He's very happy here. So we'll see how that plays out. But we've had other guys, a young player, and Aliou Ibrahim, who stepped up this year, could generate some interest. We've had, certainly his agent is talking about different clubs, so we haven't talked to a club yet, but that's interesting. And then Mikel dos Santos, left-footed center back from Brazil, who's been excellent for us as well. So there could be some opportunity for players to move out, and it could generate more GAM than we're expecting, which would be great. Great problem.
General Manager Pat Onstad joining us. Also, the other interesting one that I think could be incredibly beneficial, and I got to be careful how I word this, but you can buy some players out 2 per season, right? Which
correct
can prevent some professional behavior. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, last year, and can talk because I can talk about it last year. Like Michael Nelson, unfortunately for us, was one of the guys we bought out. The year before was Joe Corona, and we didn't use that mechanism this year. We like our group, and we feel like pretty much everyone on our roster are guys that we can use. But yes, that could come to that if you wanted to open up a little bit of space or a roster spot might be necessary. I think the bigger idea there was to let teams that are willing to try to get out of contracts they weren't happy with. But again, I think it's still a pill for everyone you have to swallow, paying money for a player that's not producing for you. And I think every team in the league will tell you they want to give that player an opportunity to perform. And there's a reason why they signed him for that. So it's certainly something that we believe in, that, you know, if you've given an opportunity and you can't do it, then that's a different story. And at that point, then maybe we go down that road.
Pat, do you think you can have a season again like last year? In other words, you know, the data shows that you've got 7 goals for, 6 against, incredible collective defending team, excellent possession-oriented team. But it's almost as though, you know, from the outside looking in, you got to win games 1-0. Now, maybe that's just the way you're going to do it. I don't know. But do you think you have the means to have that same type of season again next year without maybe the emergence of, you know, maybe a double digit?
Yeah, I mean, Corey Baird scored a lot of goals for us last year. That was a big help. And unfortunately, Sebastian Ferrer has been injured. He's played 2 games and has a goal and an assist, you know, game-winning assist and game-tying goal. So it'd be nice to get him on the field and see what he can do over a long stretch. So I think that's kind of concerning for us. Obviously, Hector Herrera being out, although he's getting closer and closer. He transforms our game, had 17 assists last year. So I think if we can get those guys on the field, I think that's when you can have a better judgment of what type of team we have and whether we're capable of doing what we did last year. I think we're close. I think if they're healthy and they're on the field, I do think we can always try to build a stronger team and get a little bit more depth. And I think Ben and his coaching staff have done a really good job of trying to figure out how to grind out results here when you're missing, you know, essentially your 2 DPs. And we've had a few other injuries as well. So I'm happy where we're at considering what's gone on, but I agree with you. Like, we're not creating as much opportunity, not many opportunities we'd like. And that puts a lot of pressure on the back four and Steve and Andrew Tarbell to keep the ball out. So we'd like to get to a point where we have a little bit of leeway there and score a few more goals.
Pat, the other thing I wanted to ask you about Sebas' status, you know, it's a lower body injury. When do you expect him back, do you think?
We're hoping this weekend. We'll see. We'll see what takes place. But he's working hard. He's done a good job. He came back extremely quick from the hamstring injury against St. Louis. That was supposed to be a 6-week injury, and I think he was back in 4.5 weeks. So we're proud. We're proud of that, and you know, happy for him that he put the work in. But ultimately, we want to make sure that this isn't recurring. That we get him back too early, and the next thing you know, he's got a calf injury. So we want to make sure that he's back and he's back for good for the rest of the year. I think that'll help our team more than anything.
And is Hector still on track, you think, for April?
He's still on track. Still on track. We'll see. You know, he's working hard too. You know, they think it's going to be something we're going to have to manage through. But he also understands it. I mean, the nice thing is this isn't. He's seen enough of the players that are I don't want to call them the twilight of a career, but when they're in their 30s, and he knows that you have to manage through this. And I think the last 3 months he's really been able to wrap his head around and saying, okay, I got to take care of myself probably a little bit better than I have in the past. Number one, and then number two, I got to be honest. If my knee's hurting, I can't try to grind through this, because what it's going to do, it'll set me back for long periods of time. You know, so there may be games we have 3 in a week. It's probably going to be difficult for him to start all 3. Can he appear in all 3 if we manage it properly? Yeah, probably. So though I think it's going to be important that our medical staff and Hector's, they're honest with one another and with the coaching group and try to figure that out.
Dynamo General Manager Pat Onstad, you know, you always hear of all these great players that refuse to go off the field no matter what. You know, Wayne Rooney, you heard these stories, and all these people. Was that hard with Hector last year, like to get him off the field?
Yeah, no, he wanted to play, and he played through a lot of pain last year. You know, he was doing some things with himself to try to make sure that he was ready to go every week in, week out. And you know, maybe we paid the price for that a little bit this year, but He wants to win. He wants this team to be successful. He's been fully committed with this group. So we're excited that he's getting close. I think for everybody it's going to give everyone a kind of a shot in the arm. Like I think everyone's getting excited because we are a much better team when he's on the field. He's our best player and one of the better players in the league. So if we can get him back and get him healthy and just kind of manage him properly, I think it'll really help our group. Certainly, you talked about score some goals, but more importantly, just give us a lot of confidence we step on that field with anyone we're playing against.
Yeah, you mentioned Mikael before, and really, it's been quite a rise for him. I mean, he's arguably playing a different position, been as good as anybody for the Dynamo this year. He's been an absolute animal back there. Speak about him a little bit, and is he fit going into this weekend, do we think?
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll have to see. His and a hamstring tweak, nothing major, not like Sebastian's one against St. Louis that was major. But we'll have to see. He'll push hard for the weekend. He's another guy that's a pretty good pro. Make sure he's ready to go. So I think if anyone's got a chance, it'd be him. But generally speaking, for us, to talk about his play, he's been excellent for us, and I think he's probably exceeded our expectations coming up. Last year, we brought him up and we are thinking he's going to be a fourth, maybe fifth center back, and threw him in. I believe it was in the Seattle game or whatever it was, or I can't remember, but which he may have actually got sent off. But he just never really missed a beat after that. He's been really solid for us. Great athlete, aggressive, hunts the ball, and actually pretty good on the ball as well. Pretty good passer. So we're excited for him to see what his future has in store for us and for him. But I think that's been a fantastic pickup. And you have to give Nick Koba credit for that. Nick and Asher Mendelson worked hard on that to get him from Monero and with the second team, 2.5 years ago. And that's been a really good example of using your second team to produce players for your first team.
Yeah, how was he identified initially? Can you refresh me on that?
Yeah, I mean, our scouting department kind of ID'd him. We pushed that through and said, could we find some guys in Brazil that maybe are excess goods for down there? They have a factory down there. If anyone hasn't noticed, they have a lot of players, but there's a lot of players that are good and just they don't fit for whatever reason. Maybe there's two 36-year-old center backs that are still playing at a high level down in Brazil, and they're like, we're not going to give this 19-year-old kid a chance. So we're working pretty hard to try to find those guys and get them in with the second team for a year and let them acclimatize, learn the language a bit, get used to the heat, and then try to bring them up. That's certainly a strategy that we have now. And he was kind of one of the number one reasons why is he was a huge success for us going that way. So, but Nick Koba and Asher, both of them really worked hard to make sure they got the deal done in a favorable way. And then Nick did a great job. He and Kenny Bundy, developing him on that team for a year. So we're very fortunate that we have those guys with us.
Pat, is there a sense there's another Mikael on the fringe of Dynamo too that could make a breakthrough this year?
Exxon, Honduran / actually a green card holder, believe it or not, but doesn't speak a lot of English. He's a Spanish speaking guy, but he's a winger, very raw. I mean, he had a yellow card the other day and took a red like on a second yellow. You're just thinking like, come on, you can't be doing that. But he's lightning fast. Scored an unbelievable goal against LAFC's second team a couple of weeks ago, where he just turns on the afterburners, touches it past the goalkeeper, and from an almost impossible angle just rolls it into the goal. So he's got something that's a little different than what we've seen. So there are a few. We're still working on trying to bring a couple more in that group, but it's also one now that we're trying to get, Sebastian Rodriguez. Can we start getting him and push him through, academy product that we signed with the second team? And so we're trying to give these guys opportunities to be able to further their career and reach their potential. And we'll see how that plays out over the next few years. But if we can start doing that, that's a huge, it's a cap-friendly player, number one. And then it's something that I think the fans can attach themselves to, these kids, so they can see them play with HD2 up at Sabercat Stadium, and then the next thing you know, they're playing for the first team.
Pat, when looking at just going back to the new rules and two DPs, you can use 4 U22 players, or 3 DPs, you can use 3, and all those new kind of rule changes. Does that in any way affect the American player at all?
I don't know. I mean, I think the U22 slot is interesting. You know, I think was it Salt Lake did that with Diego Luna. So those type of players like that might actually be a really good opportunity to try to find a U22 American player that might go abroad, or to go and actually find one that's already abroad and is still young and maybe not working out, but is at a bigger club and is like, you know, we'll pay $2 million for him because we believe in the American player and bring him here. So I think that helps. The DPs, ultimately the DPs, it's going to be tough for American players to get that kind of tag. But however, if you have three, for example, and you want to go spend maybe, and I'm just throwing a name out, but maybe there comes a time when you know, a Christian Pulisic or a Weston McKennie, and you say, hey, listen, I know you're playing at a high level, and you're probably like, but would you come back and here's maybe a bit higher? At least we would then have three DPs to be able to do that if we chose to. You know, Michael Bradley is a good example of a guy that was playing in Serie A at Roma, and Toronto was determined to bring him back to the league. I mean, they paid him a lot of money and probably paid him more than he was going to get in Europe. But at the same token, I could see that opportunity is now a little bit easier to happen, or more likely to happen than it would in the past when you really only had two DPs that you could work with.
Last night, we saw your former club, Columbus, pull off a great result against Tigres. Probably all of MLS, like you, me, and everybody else, pulling for the Columbus Crew last night after a kind of a shaky start. Just what does a result like that mean in a place like Monterey, in front of 40,000 people, now to advance?
Yeah, I think it gives the league a shot in the arm because yeah, it wasn't looking great, right, going into it. It looked like it was going to be a difficult task, and especially, you know, and I can say it because he had a fantastic game, but Patrick Schulte had just an absolute horror on the first goal. He was trying to do a Cruyff turn in the 6-yard box, and you know, Gignac knew exactly what he was doing and stripped him. So, but to give what I was amazed at is you get down like that, and that's when often those Mexican teams, when I talk about those, I'm talking about like Tigre, Club America, Monterrey, Chivas. I mean, those teams just put their foot on your throat and bury you. And Columbus didn't panic. You know, give Wilfred Nancy credit. He said, we're going to keep playing the way we play. And they actually dominated possession and created opportunity after opportunity. And I thought they controlled the game for the most part, and had a really good performance and deserved to get back in that game, to tie 1-1 and then go to penalties. And that's when Patrick Schulte made up for his error and was amazing. But it's nice for the league to see that, okay, we can compete. I mean, that's the first time in a long time that we've been able to go on the road and compete with one of those top 4 teams. So that was pretty special.
Great win for MLS, and we're looking for a great win against Minnesota this weekend, the Houston Dynamo. He's Dynamo General Manager Pat Onstad. Pat, as always, thanks for clearing up some of these new rules and giving us an idea of what's going to happen here in the future. And just before I let you go on that, you must feel good now to have these challenges. I mean, these are what you call champagne problems now, because now you have more discretionary income to play with, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's been tough. This window has been very hard for us, and you know, I think from, you know, Asher and myself would probably both tell you pretty straight that we're a little disappointed we haven't been able to bring in more guys, but we've been trying to find. Unfortunately, you see a player, you're like, oh, okay, I really like him, and he's a different salary level, which we don't have. So you're trying to find these. Can you get a guy in a free loan? Can you put a payment later that a club will accept? Can they pick up a lot of the salary that fits into your cap? So it's nice to know that we're pretty close to the end of those kind of problems that we've been dealing with, and that we'll be able to find some solutions. And what I do like is, even though we've had these injuries, we'll get a good chance to see, you know, what do we look like when Hector's on the field? What do we look like when Sebastian's our 9? You know, what does our group really need this summer? I think we have a pretty good idea, but we won't really know until we get all these guys back in the field and humming.
Pat, as always, thank you very much. Great way to end the show tonight. Best of luck against Minnesota this weekend.
Appreciate it, Glenn. Thanks.
All right, that's the one and only General Manager Pat Onstad. Exciting stuff coming out of that Board of Governors meeting, and it's going to be interesting to see how the Dynamo will utilize the DP in the under-22 spots, the 2 buyouts per season. There's a lot of interesting things going on that'll help you with roster build. All right, that does it tonight. Remember, get the podcast at Spotify, Apple, at Google as well. Our presenting sponsor, John Daspit and the Daspit Law Firm, daspitlaw.com, 713 call now. You can also get the podcast right here at ESPN975.com. And Don't forget, if you ever want to experience the closest thing to a live match, you head down to Edo, just outside Shell Energy Stadium. Pitch 25, the largest soccer beer garden in Houston, the place for you. 70 screens, 100 beers on tap, indoor soccer field. Pitch 25, the ultimate fan destination for Copa America, the Euros, the World Cup qualifying matches. Head over to 2120 Walker at Edo, Houston's go-to soccer bar. Pitch 25. For all of you listening in tonight, we appreciate the likes, the comments. All of that goes a long way in keeping soccer talk on the radio. We appreciate that. For my producer, Guillermo Lazo Romero, I'm Glenn Davis. And until next Monday night at 6 o'clock Central Time, remember, soccer matters.